filmed 14 minutes of this video without the ring light on and now gotta start this again. I love that. Okay. I'm gonna be here for like hours because I was already here for 14 minutes. I only went through like a page and a half of it. So this is gonna be a very long video. So grab some popcorn, grab some food, grab a drink, whatever you want to indulge in, and sit down and watch this video because we're going to be talking about all of my theories about the season 3 trailer as well as some of your guys' theories that you guys have sent in. Hey guys, it's AnnewithanE here and I'm here to give you guys my season 3 trailer breakdown analysis video. I'm so excited to do this. Stick around till the end of the video so that you guys can get to see my theories on the extra scenes that were not shown in the website trailer. Don't know why, but apparently there was some extra scenes. This is all like stuff that people have told me about. So stick around for that. It's gonna be interesting. There is a lot to talk about, so I will just get started now.
It's finally happened! I'm 16!
The first 5 shots of this scene show that Anne is waking up one morning and it is her birthday, March 5th, and she is finally 16 years old. This isn't something I noticed, but Bloody pointed out that the reflection on the window changes with every shot of it. So in the first shot, you see that there's no sun beaming through it, and then in the next shot, there is sun beaming through it, and then in the next shot, there's no sun beaming through it. It's just an observation. I just wanted to like show that to you guys, I guess. Since Anne's birthday is on March 5th, and the show started filming season 3 only a few days after that, I think it's very plausible to assume that Anne's birthday will take place during the beginning of season 3. Anne turning 16. What will that bring? A lot, but we'll talk about that. Now, the discussion of whether or not Anne is going to be wearing a corset this season has been talked about a lot amongst the fandom. So corsets originate from Italy in the 16th century. They were meant to flatten the bust rather than narrowing the waistline. By the Victorian era, women started to wear corsets in order to improve their posture rather than solely wearing them to accentuate the waistline and bust. Canadian women wore corsets to slim the figure. Miss Stacy refuses to wear a corset in season 2, and I think it is very likely that Anne will follow suit, given that Miss Stacy is one of her biggest female inspirations.
I feel extra inspired now to start the search for my true origin story.
The next scene shows Anne blowing out her birthday cake candles. She's wearing an indigenous hair tie which Guguette braided into her hair, and here is proof of that. So this is strictly from the Guguette open audition that was made public to everyone. This is from the script that was provided online. So I'm gonna read from my computer basically. So Anne says, "I love your hair ties. I usually wear mine like yours." Guguette responds with, "I love your colorful scarf." Anne asks, "Shall we trade?" Guguette asks, "Want to trade?" Anne says, "I warn you, it's not perfect because I knit it myself." Guguette responds, "I made these hair ties also. Want to wear them now?" Anne nods and smiles. The girls sit. Guguette braids Anne's hair and adds the ties as Anne observes the camp. That's my proof that she got those hair ties from Guguette. Okay, moving on. The following 2 clips show Anne at school looking completely miserable while Miss Stacy's at the front of the classroom with Glowbert in the background. We love Glowbert. If you guys don't know that joke, then please watch my last video because that's part of the video. The voiceover is of Anne saying, "I feel extra inspired now to start the search for my true origin story." That juxtaposes with Anne looking completely miserable in school, which I found pretty funny. And that was also something that Bloody brought to my attention. Anne and the girls are sitting on the left side of the classroom, which is different. I think that might go with my theory that Miss Stacy basically changes the seating arrangement around.
I want to learn about my family, my lineage. I feel the need to know them. I want to know who made me.
The next clip is of Anne and Marilla hugging at what seems to be a train station. Anne is most likely leaving Marilla behind to go on an adventure in Charlottetown. Anne appears to be wearing the same coat from this picture and possibly this picture. Now, I have a theory that these scenes might be connected, and here's how. So Marilla probably won't let Anne go to Charlottetown by herself. Anne wants to go visit Cole and Aunt Josephine, so Gilbert goes with her, and while he's there, he can study with Dr. Ward as his apprentice, and obviously see Merle as a mother figure to Anne, so she would be worried about her going with Gilbert regardless. And there definitely will be a reunion moment between Anne and Cole, and this scene in the trailer might just be the beginning of Anne's journey to that moment. This also means more Sherbert moments and the possibility of them becoming closer this season. The next clip is one we've seen in the teaser. Now that it's in HD, I noticed something is waving in the background. It must be quite the scene. I imagine it has to do with the indigenous people, since this scene seems like it takes place with the other scenes where Anne interacts with Guguet, except her hair is down in this one particular moment. Hey guys, I'm just going to be jumping in a couple of times during this video just to add or clarify some of the things I said previously. So Anne's hair being loose in the scene could actually be connected to when Guguet braids her hair and adds the hair ties in. I think that might be what's happening in this part. The next scene shows Bash and Mary smiling at each other while in Gilbert's house, which is technically their house as well, since Mary moved in with them after Bash and Mary got married. Wow, married and married. That was almost a tongue twister. The next two scenes show Guguet's mom and dad. Guguet's mom only knows how to speak their native language, which is Mi'kmaq, while her dad knows both English and Mi'kmaq. I'm really excited to see this family's interactions and dynamic and how they fit into the show. Then we see Anne reading what looks to be a newspaper. There's a theory out there that this newspaper that Anne is reading in this scene is the same one that Rachel Lynn and her husband are reading in a scene that we'll see later on in the trailer. Given the fact that the back of the newspaper, the part that's facing us, is identical in both scenes, I think this is a very plausible theory. But the interesting thing about this observation is that Rachel looks very sad, while Anne on the other hand looks up in wonderment while she's reading the newspaper. And there's two theories about what this scene might mean. One is either that Anne wrote something for the newspaper that moved everyone in Avonlea to tears by her writing, which would explain the fountain pen emoji from Amy Beth's tweets and the reason why Rachel would be crying in this scene. Or Matthew had just passed away and it was reported in the newspaper. Not that that would be how she would find out about his death. And also I think that if it was just recently announced to the public, then Anne would still be grieving about it, you know? She wouldn't really have that expression on her face, I'm assuming. So this voiceover shows that Anne wants to find out where she comes from. She seems to be inspired by the families around her, especially Guguet's family. Identity and discovering where one comes from is an important factor in a coming-of-age story, which this one is.
When your eyes seek and your heart is open, that is true brave.
Then we see a clip of Diana and Anne smiling to each other with the other girls out of frame except for Jane's shoulder. They look like they are standing outside of the schoolhouse, getting ready to go inside. This seems to take place in the same scene that we will see later on where Josie says, "Wouldn't want to wind up an old maid? Can that run in a family?" So they're clearly discussing about courting and beaux, and Josie seems to be throwing shade at Anne. Some things never change. The next scene we see is of the girls sitting around a table eating strawberries, baked goods, and sipping tea while laughing. This could potentially be Anne's 16th birthday party. The bursting out laughter and eating things with their hands seems to imply that these are still girls. They haven't really grown up yet in a way, like they're still acting like normal girls should, you know, regardless of the sophisticated setting they're in. I'm curious about what will happen here though. This scene looks like it will take place at the beginning of season 3 because during the wrap party, the cast were watching the first episode and the still that was on the screen was of this same tea party. Since Minnie May is there, I'm going to assume that this takes place in Diana's house. The next clip that we get is of Anne riding on a horse through the forest. She looks happy, so I think this scene is connected to another part of the Guguet audition script, which I will read out loud right now. Anne ties her horse and looks around. There are 2 large wigwams and several families of multiple generations. Guguet drops her basket weaving and runs over. Guguet says, "You found us." Anne says, "It was just as you said. I enjoyed the journey and looking for clues." Basically what I'm trying to say is that perhaps after the incident of Guguet trying to play hockey with the white kids, my theory is that Anne participated in this scene. Guguet left clues to Anne so that she could find her wigwam, so that they could become friends. Then after Guguet braids Anne's hair and Anne lends her scarf to Guguet, then the following 2 scenes happen, which are that they start playing together and then they end up kneeling in front of a ice pond, which is where we got this picture from. This all appears to be in the first episode, given that this was one of the first scenes that they shot when they began filming. Throughout these scenes, there's a voiceover that says, "When your eyes seeking your heart is open, that is true brave." I believe that this comes from Guguet, and in her seem that they will have a special bond.
I'm not an ideal beauty with many suitors or even just one.
Good morning, Anne.
Busy, sorry. At this age, we should all be promised to someone.
The next couple of scenes seem to take place during springtime, so post episode 1 and maybe even 2. Anne is wearing the green dress that we've seen in the picture with Moira. She looks upset over something. Then we see her looking into the mirror with her own voiceover saying, "If I'm not an ideal beauty for many suitors or even just one." How ironic that after we hear her say that, Charlie seems to take an interest in her. This is the storyline we actually see in the books. Charlie develops feelings for Anne when they were 17 and even proposes to her, which Anne declines. We get a voiceover from Tilly that says, "At this age, we should all be promised to someone." And then we get a shot of everyone dancing with someone. So this is who I think is in this scene. Charlie and Anne, Gilbert and Jane, Billy Powell number 1 and Tilly, Billy Powell number 2, Diana and Josie, Billy and Miss Stacy, Rachel, and I have no clue who the last person behind Anne is. So a viewer of mine, her name is Michelle, we love name twins, pointed out to me that there's a piece of paper in the corner of Anne's mirror and that could be some sort of invitation to a dance. I don't think it will be a Christmas dance just because it doesn't seem like the show will take place at any point during December. I think it will most likely be a spring or summer one. It would explain why their class is rehearsing and why Rachel is taking part in their class, probably to be their instructor, since she's usually in charge of organizing events for the community.
Wouldn't want to wind up an old maid. Can that run in a family? Seems to me that my destiny is to be the bride of adventure.
The next part shows Diana and Gerry together. As much as I hate to say this, there will definitely be something going on between them this season. It's clearly what they're intending by showing them together like this in the trailer. I read someone's suggestion that basically said that Diana and Gerry will have like a Romeo and Juliet type of story, with Diana's parents probably wanting her to marry someone of their status. Gerry doesn't really fit into that because he's a hired boy. So in other words, they wouldn't approve of someone like Gerry. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of that. And I already talked about this scene with Anne and Josie, so I'm just gonna skip over that. The following scene shows Anne riding on a horse through the meadow with her own voiceover saying, "It seems to me that my destiny is to be a bride of adventure." This indicates that Anne isn't really looking for a suitor, but perhaps she feels threatened to get one because of all the girls being interested in dating at this point. Little does she realize that she is indeed falling in love with Gilbert.
I suppose love can...
Okay, to be real, this scene actually had me dead. Anne and the girls, I counted 6 of them, so I'm assuming it's Anne, Diana, Ruby, Jane, Tilly, and Josie, seem to be doing some sort of burning ritual. Burning rituals signify cleansing of the past. This could mean that Anne and the girls have chosen to let go of something painful from their past, or perhaps this is a rite of passage performance. Anne could have read about it in a book somewhere. The next scene shows Diana and Anne blowing kisses to each other, which is a callback to when they did it in season 2. Then we have a scene where Anne is giving Marilla a hug as Marilla seems to be emotional about something. There's rare scenes where Marilla displays sad emotions in front of Anne. She always tries to conceal how she feels inside towards Anne, so this must be a really important part in the season. It might even be connected to the train station scene which we saw earlier. The next scene shows Anne and Gilbert unconsciously mimicking each other while they're staring into each other's eyes. This is a callback to every single time they've either mimicked each other or stared into each other's eyes intensely in season 1 and season 2. We love parallels.
storm and make a mess of everything that you have in place, in your life. So
After this, we see Matthew talk about love with Miss Stacy while they're in the barn. The love he's talking about here is a universal concept of love, parental, platonic, and romantic. Love can storm in. Why is he talking about this with Miss Stacy is my question. Well, let's dissect the next scene. The following scene shows Miss Stacy looking at pictures of a man. We can theorize that this man will end up being her deceased husband. She seems to be holding on to his belongings as well, or perhaps things that remind her of him. Maybe Miss Stacy found romantic love and she doesn't know whether or not she's ready to move on from her deceased husband. Perhaps that's why she goes to Matthew to discuss love. The next couple of scenes follow Bash and Mary, Mr. and Mrs. Lind, and Mr. and Mrs. Barry. Bash and Mary seem really sad. They seem to be struggling with their lives in Avonlea. Mr. and Mrs. Barry seem calm and affectionate. Rachel and Mr. Lind also seem sad. All while Matthew is saying, "And makes a mess out of everything that you have in place in your life." I don't don't think that these scenes are related to each other in any way, but more depict of each character's individual struggles with marriage in spite of the love that they have with each other. The reason why I believe that these scenes are edited together is so that they can show the parallels of each couple, the comfort and support that you see one spouse give to the one that is suffering. I notice this with the comfort always being the male and the sufferer always being the female.
I sure didn't see Anne coming. I wouldn't go back for the world.
Who is AnnewithanE?
We are almost towards the end of this analysis, which is wonderful because I'm tired. These next two scenes are so heartwarming. Matthew saying that he wasn't expecting for Anne to arrive in Green Gables, but that he wouldn't go back for the world. Some think that this alludes to Matthew passing away this season, and if he does, I will cry. And I won't be ashamed of that. The final scene shows Anne looking behind a staircase with her name engraved into it. I think it's Jane's voice that says, "Who is AnnewithanE?" but I might be wrong. My guess is that Anne went back to the orphanage to find her roots, and then she found what she herself had engraved into the staircase when she was living in the orphanage. She looks at her engraved name solemnly, so perhaps she was unsuccessful with finding anything about her lineage. Either that, or perhaps she was disappointed with the results she found. Or perhaps Anne remembers more traumatic moments of her time living in the orphanage, which could offer more flashback scenes in this season. So as I said, the reason why I think Anne went back to the orphanage was to find records of her parents. That would be the ideal place to look. One longtime viewer of mine, Vaudry, actually discovered that the TV version of the trailer includes some extra scenes that probably most of us haven't seen, including myself because I don't have cable. One of those extra scenes includes a mention of orphanage records.
I wonder if they know, the orphanage. They must have records about you.
I've been wondering that myself.
I have another theory by my dear friend Cold Heart Angel, in which she suggests that Anne's parents, Walter and Bertha Shirley, could have been the ones to carve Anne's name into the wooden staircase. She also suggests that Anne is in her birthplace home. The staircase could lead up to her nursery. In the books, her parents had a hard time finding a name for Anne when she was born. And this is a quote from the book. "We thought of 4 names, Jean and Janet and Dorothy and Anne. I've looked at her and said the first 3 names, they don't fit. She's not Jean or Janet and Dorothy, but I knew right away that she was Anne. Not Anne, Anne with an E. She's our perfect, perfect Anne. Walter Shirley." So Cold Heart Angel thinks that if this could be the case, then Anne could finally grow to love her name, her real name, and give up her pseudo-names like Cordelia. Now finally, I'm going to talk about the other extra scenes that were found in the TV version of the trailer. There is a scene where Matthew gives Anne jewelry, perhaps for her birthday, and a scene of the back of what looks like Cole's head. Since this might be Cole walking with Anne into the orphanage, we know it's an orphanage by the sign. This could mean that the trip that Anne takes to Charlottetown is in order to be accompanied by Cole to the orphanage. However, this is only a possibility, and maybe this isn't Cole walking with her, but just someone who is leading her into the orphanage. We didn't get to see Cole at all in the website's trailer. I'm not entirely sure how many episodes he's going to be in this season, but we know at least 1, and I really hope he's in more. Now, last thing that I want to talk about is the fox. So no fox was in this trailer. That kind of worries me. Perhaps he ventured off between season 2 and season 3, finally found a sweetheart and had some fox babies, and we'll probably never get to see him again, and we'll only get a brief mention about him in the beginning of the season. Maybe that's what happens. I don't know. Maybe he's back though. There's no way of knowing right now. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about that. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, this very long video. I don't know how long this took me. I think it took me nearly 2 hours to film. I think that's a record for me. Like this video if you guys enjoyed it. It really lets me know that you guys are enjoying these types of videos. Let's try to aim it to 200 likes. That would be awesome. Subscribe to my channel if you guys want to see more of my AnnewithanE content. Follow me on all my social media accounts. They should be appearing on the screen right now. And knock on wood for Selma. I almost forgot that. And I'll see you guys soon. Bye. Mwah.